Dear Failing Writers, thank you for your correspondence requesting I record a short sketch pretending to write a letter as an opening to your episode, entitled The Lost Art of Letter Writing. However, I regret to inform you that on this occasion I will not be able to help you out with such a task. I would have been only too happy to do so, but I'm afraid that when you started talking about doing it in a meta way, where my writing of the very letter itself, in which I refused to do it, would in fact become the letter read out at the start of the aforementioned episode. Frankly, it all got a bit circular and confusing, and so sadly, I will absolutely definitely not be able to assist you in this matter. Kindest regards.
The last couple of episodes got us thinking, didn't it, Tom?
It did, which some people would say is a rare thing for us, or others probably more a dangerous thing. But yeah.
It made us think when we wrote our world-changing letter to Bridget Phillipson. When was the last time prior to that we actually wrote a letter to somebody, like a proper...
Rather than like an email or a WhatsApp
exactly.
or a text or an actual lick the stamp, shove it in a letterbox letter.
Precisely. For me, it was a bloody long time ago because I can't actually remember. So that's how long ago it was. But yeah, it's not really a need to do it anymore, is there?
There's lots of different ways to connect with people, isn't it? But there's something very romantic about letter writing and the time it takes to have a proper back and forth conversation and the feeling of actually holding something in your hands.
Yeah. It's kind of like the difference between downloading a song and rifling through vinyl in a record store, isn't it?
Yeah, or like between reading a book or on an electronic device, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having a paperback in your hand.
It's maybe even the difference between a Facebook friend and like an actual friend.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Or the difference between an inflatable... Actually, no, leave that one.
Yeah, so we thought, let's have a deeper little look into the whole lost art of letter writing, because...
It's a deeper little look. Is that like a deep dive, but with less commitment?
It is, yeah. It's like a shallow dive, but you're still looking. You're looking deeper. You got your goggles on, and you're looking down.
You're looking down deeper, but we've not actually gone deep. We're not
no.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds very us. I think we can do that. But letter writing, if you go back, it used to be a huge part of life. Even if you just go back to our childhoods, John.
Yeah.
You don't have to go back to like Jane Austen or anything for it to be a thing.
No. Back in our day, we did stuff like we had pen pals, didn't we? Everybody had a pen pal at school. In fact, the teachers we were talking to last week, they're trying to bring back the pen pal, aren't they? I think that's a really nice idea. Great
idea. And there were loads of other kinds of times you'd get your Basil Bond writing set out too, wasn't it? Do you remember? I don't know if you had this. It came out every year, but there was a book you could buy in like the 80s that had loads of stuff that you could write off for to get free, like posters or badges or signed photos or join clubs for...
No, I missed that.
Never had that?
No.
It was like an entire book.
Was it all absolute dross?
Yeah, it was like stuff, obviously, because it was free stuff. The price of a stamp you'd send off, say, oh, please could you send me? And you get like a little... I don't know, a fridge magnet
like
or some stickers or just
advertising Marmite
or a poster about the endangered orangutans in Borneo or something. Oh yeah, brilliant. It's free. Yeah,
and no smoking sign. or something.
Stuff like that. All sorts of stuff. But there's loads of like letter writing. I mean, did you ever write to Jim will fix it? Actually, leave that one. We'll just move on.
And then there's letters back from the front. In the world wars.
God. I mean, again, back to that thing of being able to hold something, and it's something that your loved one has held as well. Like I said, the romance of letter writing, you got the scent on the paper, or it's not the same as a text, is it?
LOL, Germans at it again. WTF, #trenchfoot. Yeah, it's not quite the same, is it?
Not the same at all. And of course, it goes back to ancient times. I mean, there was that fella in the Bible, wasn't he? He was always writing letters.
Who's that then? Paul. Was that Paul?
I hope Jesus reimbursed him for all the stamps, though, because he'd have spent a fortune, wouldn't he? Do you think they had like a expenses system for the disciples?
I'm sure they did. Yeah. I'm sure they claimed everything back off Jesus.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, these days, letter writing not quite as popular as it used to be. Do you know what we need here, Tom?
Oh, don't say a song.
That is a brilliant idea, Tom. We need a song. We need a little song about writing letters while we think about what to do next. Dear Tom, I'm writing to you using actual pen and paper. Crazy in these days of robots, internet and lasers, but I think sometimes it's just worth putting in the labour. Just wanted to write and say, hey, I'll speak to you later.
Dear John, sorry it took so long to get to your reply. I had to pop to WH Smith's just so I could buy a bunch of pens and Basil and Bond supplies. I guess what I'm trying to say to you, John, is why?
Please don't write me a letter. I'm not sure I really get you. When now WhatsApp would be better, and now the rain has made your letter wetter.
Dear Tom, I had a feeling you'd be foxed by all these letters going in the letterbox. Yes, it's long-winded and a little unorthodox, but I bet you're forgetting that getting letters rocks.
Dear John, can't say I'm overwhelmingly enthralled to receive a leaf of paper on which your pen has scrawled. When I think of the poor postman who's gone and hauled all this to my door, I feel nothing but appalled.
Oh, my heart begins to shrivel whenever I receive your dumb epistle. I've never read such a load of drivel. Please accept my stern dismissal.
Dear Tom, I get the feeling that you're rather unimpressed by my missives, which to you I have addressed. Maybe instead of sending these, it would be best to invite onto the show a proper letter-writing guest.
Dear John, that's funny, isn't it? Always beginning with dear, even if you think the recipient is weird. Well, I hate it when you're right, but I think it might appear that you've managed for once to have a half-decent idea. Whoa, stop now. Stop, that's enough. Enough of this. It's quite a lot of faff, isn't it? We should probably just go back to like texting or WhatsApp or something. Save us a fortune as well. Have you seen the price of stamps these days? Not surprised people don't write letters.
What we should do now, Tom, we should speak to someone who's on a mission to bring back the lost art of letter writing.
We absolutely should.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
But who?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, do you know what I like to do in tricky times like this, John?
What's that?
I like to put the details into my Guest-O-Matic 3000.
All right. Yeah. Is that is that some sort of like fancy AI thing?
Oh God, no. There's no AI here. Thank you very much.
No.
It's a simple series of analog pulleys and wheels and cogs that's driven by a hyper-intelligent rodent called Bertie.
All right. Oh, hello, Bertie. All right.
And here we go. It's saying. It's a bit tricky to understand, really.
Yeah.
Hammy Dortos.
What? Any tomatoes?
Hold on. Army Slaughters.
What? That's not very nice. What?
Daughters. It's daughters. Amy Daughters.
Right.
There we go.
Well, she'd be great.
Works.
She was actually, she's really good on the lost art of letter writing.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest her originally.
Right, well, you literally could have said that before and saved Bertie's legs, poor little lad. Look at him, he's knackered.
Amy, thanks so much for joining us. You are a keen and prolific letter writer and someone who advocates strongly for the lost art of letter writing. Tell us about that. How did that come about?
Yes, and thank you for having me on and giving me a chance to share my story. Yeah, I like to tell the story in the context of I was minding my own business, because I was. When I came into this story, which happened about 10 years ago, I hadn't written anyone a letter in 25 years. It's a very relatable story. I was on Facebook one day. I thought about an old friend that I had met at a summer camp that I worked at in 1986. We probably spent 6 weeks together. We were both pretty loud and boisterous. So that was probably the basis of our relationship, but we hadn't spoken in 30 years. And so the one day I sat down and looked at Facebook, her name popped in my head. I looked her up and there she was. And since it was social media and it didn't mean anything, I friend requested her. She accepted my request. And then I spent, a delightful 6 minutes looking through her life and kind of, doing the basic stalk and seeing what she was all about. And it turned out that she overachieved in children. She had 5 children. And right away I found out that she had 4 girls and the youngest kid was the only boy. And her son, his name was Parker, he was at a children's cancer hospital in Memphis, Tennessee called St. Jude. It's quite well-renowned here in the United States, but it also is it's reserved for very serious cases. So it was apparent that this child was fighting for his life. So immediately, as a human being, as a mom, as a person, I became engaged in this story. And my old friend, Dana, was very transparent, and I think she shared her journey quite a bit, her and Parker's journey, which I'm sure was helpful to her because she received a lot of support. And so I followed along in the background. I didn't hit like, I didn't comment. I just watched this story play out. And I did feel like I was overfeeling it just a little bit. And I like to tell the story in different layers of me kind of behaving irrationally. So first I'm just the stalker from outside watching this thing all go down. So Parker fights for several months. Then he goes home, and they lived in Louisiana. They go home to Louisiana. He's in remission. I felt relief, even though I didn't even know these people. But, as a human being, I've fallen along. So later that same year, she begins to post about the cancer again. And devastatingly, Parker has relapsed. They go back to St. Jude in Memphis, or they're planning this journey back. And I was freelance writing about American college football at the time. So that Monday morning, I sat down at my desk, and it was literally like and this has never happened to me before. It's like I got struck by lightning. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write Dana and Parker cards and send them. Okay, guys, I hadn't written a letter to anyone in 25 years. I hadn't seen Dana. She didn't even know I was out there stalking her. And I'd never met
I see
Parker.
no contact up to this point.
Right,
Yeah,
so that's why this is also crazy. And so, but I was so invested in this idea. It was almost like, this is what you have to do. And so I sat down that same day, only I didn't have any stamps, and I had to go find a card. And I wrote them a letter and just said, I'm thinking about you. I don't know if you remember me from camp, and I tried to be funny probably. And I sent her and Parker that first card. And so then every Sunday or every Monday, I would get up and write them a card. And this went on for about 10 weeks. And every single time I sat down and write, I told myself, this is crazy. This is not how normal people behave, but I just couldn't help myself. I just kept doing it. I just knew that's what I had to do. Well, the year turns into the next year, and you could tell that Dana's posts on Facebook start to change. And again, that's my only contact with these people other than these letters I'm writing. And then she stops posting, her friends start posting, and it's bad. And then one Sunday morning, I get up, I look at Facebook, and there's this 2-paragraph post from Dana that's just absolutely horrific. And her son, Parker, who's only 15 years old, has passed away from cancer. And it's just devastation. And though I know it has nothing to do with me, the next day I was like, so what do I do? Because I had felt like the letter thing was what I was supposed to do. And so, again, just like another jolt of crazy adrenaline, I was just like, I'm just going to keep writing her letters. Only now I had to figure out where to send these letters because she was going to go back home, and you can't ask for an address at this point. And so, and I realized, Jon and Tom, this all sounds crazy because it was. And so, I've other than this incident, I'm a pretty rational person.
It's crazy, but it's also very lovely.
It does have a component of just that. And
I want to hear the end of the story before I decide.
Okay, good.
Whether it's weird or lovely.
That's fair. So anyway, I look on Facebook. I figure out where, and I'd known her husband from the camp too, where he works, and I just start sending the letters there. And one of the reasons I wanted to continue to write her, because I was just I knew she had, as a mom, I was like, she has just got to be devastated, and I can't just leave it here like this. I can't just have written her and say, I'm being supportive, and then I couldn't just drop it from there.
Yeah.
So I start sending these letters to her husband's office address. And again, I sit down every week the same day, write the letter, and I know it's sheer insanity. But then 4 months into me writing her, and I'm just about to give up, I go to my mailbox. It's actually like my 48th birthday, and I'm hoping for a card, but no one sends anyone a card. Your country is much better than our country about sending birthday cards, but because my English friends are the only ones who send me birthday cards. But so I go to my mailbox, and believe it or not, there's a 10-page letter from this woman in my mailbox, handwritten. And she writes me about her grief. She updates me on her family. She tells me what my letters have meant to her, both before Parker passed and after. She says she can't believe that I kept writing her, even though she hadn't written me back. She can't believe that I hadn't stopped because everyone, a lot of the care and concern that surrounded them had started to dissipate. And so this kicks off 2 years of me and this girl from Facebook writing each other once a week and communicating exclusively through the United States Postal Service. We don't text, we don't email, we don't call, we don't do any of that. We just write each other's letters. So what do we write about? I write about my life looking out from the outside in. It was almost like a Dear Diary. I write about my marriage, my kids, my job, my family, things we're doing. And I get this profound view from the inside out of my own life. You know, it really turns everything on its head. She writes about her grief. She does the same thing I write about, like her family, her husband, her marriage. And she tells me after the fact that when she would walk into a room and her 4 daughters and her husband, who are all suffering this together, seemed like they were doing okay. As the mom, she didn't want to bring the room down, so she would go in the other room and write me about how she felt. And since our letters were crossing in the mail, we had no idea when anyone was reading anything. So we just said whatever we wanted to say, and we developed this trust that made no sense. We would say stuff like, and guys, this is before we ever talked. We'd be like, I haven't told anybody yet this, but I know I can tell you. I mean, I had no idea who this woman was. It was so intimate. And one of the best parts of it was, I didn't know if she was a Democrat or Republican. I didn't know what she believed in, what religion she practiced. I didn't know what her stance on gender equality was. I knew none of that. All I knew was this woman had lost her son. I cared about that. And she cared about my life. And we had shared enough that's all, that connection was really the basis of all that mattered. And that mattered enough to really the rest of it didn't matter. So after about 6 months of having this pen pal relationship with this girl, I sat back and I was like, so much goodness can come from this one random girl from Louisiana. What else is out there on this Facebook friends list? So then I took the big leap, the really crazy leap. And I said, I'm going to try to write all of my Facebook friends. And I didn't think I was going to finish. I didn't think I was going to really do it. But the way my mind kind of works is, I got a journal, I made a plan, I bought stationery, I put everyone's names in a box, and I just got up on day one, pulled a name out, and then I was like, oh crap, now I got to really write this person a letter. And I just started writing letters every day.
I've got to tell you, Amy, I am no closer to deciding which side of the fence I'm coming down on this yet.
It's still fair. I mean, I did it, and I'm not sure what side of the fence I put my own leg on, Who knows? But anyway, so what ended up happening, guys, is I spent 18 months writing 580 people a handwritten letter, and it absolutely blew up my life.
What were you expecting to achieve from that? That sounds like a weird question, but when you set out, when you decided this is what I'm going to do, is this something that you do a lot, Amy? Are you kind of you put your mind to something and you just crack on with it?
I'm absolutely, that's one of the things I have is determination. But I think the reason I saw this project through is because once I got past, 50 or 100 letters, I realized that this was going to be probably the most significant thing I was going to do in my life, because I started to harness the power of what a handwritten letter could mean to someone in 2017, 2024, whatever year. I did not understand what these letters were going to mean to people. And I did not understand what writing and reconnecting with people was going to do for me, what it was going to do for my hopefulness as a human being, what it was going to do for my level of connection with people, what it was going to do for my grateful meter. All those things I had no expectation. Back to your question, what did I think was going to happen? I thought, based on my pen pal relationship with Dana, that I was going to enrich my life in some way that I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I think that's what I thought, but I also put, because I had a journal, and on the first page I wrote, here are my expectations. I wrote stuff like, it's going to be awkward. People are going to think it's weird. I'm going to think it's weird. I'm not going to finish. I'm not going to be able to reply to letters. I wrote all those things that were totally realistic goals, but I did say I do think this could be life-changing just based on my written conversation with Dana. But I thought I'd get about 50 letters into it, and then it'd be like, oh, what a great social experiment. But once I got past the tipping point, maybe halfway, I was like, now I have to finish. One, because I couldn't leave half the list without letters. And two, because I knew this was absolutely going to be one of the biggest things I ever did with my life, because it was just so rich with lessons and inspiration. And I would have never thought any of that. I was just a girl with a little plan and experiment.
What were you writing to these people? Was it the same kind of autobiographical stuff that you previously, or like what was just talking about the weather, or what?
Well, that's a great question, Tom. And just by the sheer, like, if you think about it, the mechanics of what would you say if you were going to sit down and write someone who, especially someone you haven't connected with in a long time.
I can almost get my head around that for writing a letter, Amy. But when you're talking about hundreds of letters to totally different people who you might not really know very much about, what did you do?
Well, just to, as an end, as a means to an end, what happened over time is I developed a little formula.
Oh, okay.
For how this worked. And it just was a very natural thing. It wasn't something I planned or tried to do. So the first thing I would do, the first paragraph of every letter was the same. It was like, here's what I'm doing. I'm writing all of my Facebook friends a handwritten letter. And I told, a one-line story of Dana and Parker.
Right.
This is why I'm doing it. Maybe to enrich my connections, to, kind of what does Facebook friend mean? It was that kind of thing. So one short paragraph about that.
Kind of an opener saying, I'm not a complete fruitcake, honest.
Absolutely. And when I would say stuff like, I know this is crazy. I was completely honest. Like, this is, but this is what I'm doing. And so then the next natural step was I would go look at their Facebook page and say, okay, who is this person?
Yep.
And over again, guys, I figured out that I had assumed so many things about people that were wrong, not because I was a bad person with bad intentions, but because I'd never looked at these people as true individuals. It was this overwhelming list of people who I followed along with on social media. So I would look and I'd be like, oh, Tom, is a writer and he has a podcast and I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd be like, oh, I went to high school with Tom, not college. I mean, I really had to recategorize all these people. But then inevitably I would find out, and we'll use Tom as an example, like, oh my gosh, Tom, and I'm obviously just making this up, but Tom, lost his dad, or Tom's wife is struggling with this, or Tom won an award for this. So, hey, there's something easy to write about. Hey, Tom, congratulations. Hey, Tom, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Hey, Tom, whatever it was, or that I saw or that we were connected about, like we both like Liverpool or Leicester or a football team. And I know those are bad examples, and I'm sorry. But so there was a connecting point. So that's an easy paragraph and a half. Yeah. And then I could say something about my life where that was. But the really the best part of the letters was I would sit back, and this just became natural, and say, okay, Tom, where does he fit into my life story? I'd be like, oh yeah, I went to high school with Tom, and Tom was the guy I ate lunch with every day. And when Ben broke up with me in high school, Tom was the one who was like, hey, you're not going to let this relationship define you. Like, you're fine, you're going to be fine. And the next obvious thing I'd be like, Tom, thank you. You were my friend all those years ago, and you helped me. So the letters played out like that. It really didn't matter. The people I knew really well, that was really easy to do. But even the people I'd met briefly, I could still use that formula. And the letter would be in some way meaningful, and not just meaningful to the person receiving it, but it was meaningful to me, because then, almost like the letters to Dana, I was looking at my life from the outside in, and I was like, wow, I'm connected to some people that are, one, amazing, and two, have done amazing things in my life. And there's so much hope in that looking forward. Like, if all this happened for the first how many years, I mean, this is going to be great. What's going to happen next?
What is it about letters, about the form of letters, that make them so different to other media? It's like you're allowed to say certain things in a letter that you wouldn't necessarily say, or you wouldn't feel like you could say in a Facebook message or an email or something.
Well, that's a great question. And I can speak a lot to this because I did it so many times. But, first of all, it's non-intrusive. You're giving someone something and you're not asking for anything back. And you don't know when it's going to arrive in that person's mailbox, or if it ever arrived, or if they've even read it. So that is the first part of the freedom. You're writing, you don't have someone, you can't look at the reaction, and you're also not writing with an in electronic communication, we're anticipating a response, and that changes the way we are going to address something.
There's also an impatience to the response as well, isn't there, with electronic media?
Absolutely. And really your patience muscle gets worked with the letters, because you have to drop it in the box and realize you may never hear anything. And then that takes away the need to be validated that you made a difference to someone.
You're not going to get no likes. No.
Right. And if I send you a text and say, hey, I'm sorry about this, I as a human being want you to say, oh, thank you. But with the letters, you release that. You're like, I don't know what happened, but I can just assume with goodwill that it made a difference or whatever I was trying to achieve with the letter. And the other thing that's and this is the power of the letter that I did not understand, is that if Tom or John takes the time to sit down and write me a letter, whether it's meaningful or not, and whether it's one line, 2 sentences, or 17 pages, it can have the same impact. You know, guys, the problem with my story is it's overwhelming. Like, I'm a writer, there's 600 letters, it's too much. Really, you can nail this down to one letter and have the same impact and have like 5 sentences. It doesn't have to fit some formula that I used. But if John sends me a letter in the mail, and let's say John and I haven't talked in 20 years, or John and I talked last week, if I go out to my mailbox and I pull this letter out and it's from John, and I hold in my hands, first of all, that's something that John has held in his hands. So that's personal and intimate and meaningful just on its own. But especially if the letter was a surprise, John, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to connect the dots of what John had to do. John had to sit down, find a pen, get some paper or a card. He had to think up something to write to me. And then he had to put it in an envelope. Oh my gosh, he had to go find a stamp. Then he had to go into town to the post office and stand in line or stick it in the red box somewhere. And then he had to do all those steps. So when I pull that out of my mailbox and hold it in my hand, I'm going to automatically figure out, oh my gosh, this is how much I matter to another person. You create this magical moment. And I'm telling you what, I walked into this letter writing thing not thinking any of that. But over and over and over and over again, I realized these letters changed people. And I didn't mean for that to happen. But the number one response I got from these 580 letters was, I'm going to save your letter in a special place for the rest of my life.
Are you still writing letters, Amy?
Yes, I am. And I would have thought at the end of the Facebook project that I would have stopped because I was so done. I was so done writing letters, and throughout my journal. And it's not like I was like, oh, I'm so inspired. I just can't wait to go on. I was like, I cannot go on any longer. I cannot write any more letters. I mean, I thought I would stop, and I did stop for a while. But I realized that the absolute best version of myself from this life was going to be those 18 months I was writing the letters, because it was just so good. So now every morning I still sit down and write someone a card, or mostly a letter. And it's just back to what I said, what I see, like what I know what's going on with friends or family, or what I see on social media. I'll send congratulations for somebody who achieved something, or support for somebody who's struggling with something. And it's just a testament to what I learned from Dana and Parker and what I learned through the letters. And I think it's something I'll do for the rest of my life. I speak about letter writing now, and I just think practicing it every day, again, it's just going to be a part of who I am.
So do you think, are we going to see a resurgence in the art of physical letter writing? You know, like we've seen with records and other old-fashioned things that kind of come back into
analog communication.
Yeah.
They're like 35 millimeter film, because you see that too, and all that's unfiltered, which is very, again, that's, people are drawn to that nostalgia. I think we will see a resurgence, but I think it will be like other analog avenues. It'll be a small amount of people pushing it, and it'll be popular in kind of an eclectic way. I think if people took a hold of this and saw what it could mean to them and the recipient, and this is true in or anything where there's a relationship, this letter writing scheme works. Whether you're in an organization that goes sideways with people you work with, customers, if you're an employer, it's a great way to boost retention. And these are the kind of things I speak about. It has such power, and I think that's what could give this momentum, because it has actual value. And of course, here in the United States, we value things that have financial value. Yeah. And since it could carry that element, like selling vinyl, it has a chance. And I certainly am going to be someone. It's funny because 10 years ago, if you would have told me that I couldn't shut up about letter writing, I would have thought that was hysterical. But now, now I will basically show up anywhere anyone wants to talk about letter writing.
I believe the phrase is that you would turn up to the opening of an envelope, which
that's pretty good.
Obviously is very true.
It is.
What's the best letter you've received back from one of your random letter sendings out, Amy? What's something that really sticks with you, that really, really touched you?
That's a really hard question because there was so many moments where I was like, wow, and picking just one, I wrote. I think the reason I continued the letter writing, there was some really key responses in the first 100 letters that made me realize that, wait a second, this is something really important. And I wrote a guy who lived in Los Angeles who I'd gone to high school with. And I used the example about me and Tom eating lunch together every day because this guy was somebody who I ate lunch with every day. Right, okay. And then we end up growing up and we're on different sides of that political spectrum. We're living very different lives socially. I mean, we have different values and I wrote him and said, and I was very nervous about writing the letter. And that's the other thing. I was nervous about writing letters. I felt like it was awkward. So it wasn't this magical carpet ride through wonderfulness. There was bad things that happened, and that's what makes it a great story though, because it was so real. But I write this guy and I was like, I basically said, we're opposite ends of the spectrum on everything. And he knew that and I knew that. And I said, but I just want to let you know, we grew up in this tight box in suburbia. And I think you're incredibly brave, to live your life out loud and then to be so kind to everyone, even when they're not being kind to you. Because that was a component when I went and looked at his Facebook page. I mean, he was getting bashed by people and he just continued to respond kindly. So I said that to him and I said, and thanks for sitting next to me at lunch every day, because I was super awkward in high school because I was, and you were my friend every single day. And I said, that just carries such value now. I have kids in high school myself now, and I see their little awkward selves get on the bus every day. And I realized that what I really want for them is you. That's the kind of friend you were to me. And he wrote me back and he was like, he said, your letter just gave me so much hope about who I am and who I can be to people moving forward. He said it was life-changing. He said, I want to continue to do the things that I'm doing now. And I just appreciate you acknowledge that. And he said, if I would have picked one person in 1,000 that would have given that to me, I wouldn't have picked you. I wouldn't have thought you would have been the one to do that. And I was like, I said that in like 4 paragraphs. And this guy's basically telling me, I'm going to go we're never going to see each other again, but I'm going to go keep doing what I'm doing because it matters. And you just pointed that out to me and gave me hope and what I needed to keep going. And that's one letter in 580. And that's not, and let me just make sure I say this is not about me being some great person. This is just 2 human beings with hearts and real life experiences communicating with each other. So there's nothing special about me. This is, if you nail it down, it's 2 humans communicating.
Yeah. What kind of percentage, what was the percentage of people who actually wrote back? Were there any that didn't?
There was, and I'm a numbers girl, so I kept tally of that. And the response rate...
Let's hear the stats.
Yeah, the response rate was 74%. And by and large, those were handwritten letters back, because people, again, and that tapped into the nostalgia. People got the letter and they're like, oh, I have to write back in kind. And especially, I wrote to probably 25 people in the United Kingdom, and all 25 of those people wrote back, because the British people are good about returning in kind. Americans, they fall behind the British people in that way. But so, and then I received texts and phone calls and saw people in person, and I counted those responses as well.
Well, wasn't she lovely? And isn't it good to know that the British are the winners?
They're sending back champions.
Yeah. Well done, gang.
But no, Amy was brilliant. Again, I've got a lot of respect for people who have ideas like that and actually follow through on them.
Yes, she was good at that, wasn't she?
That was huge, wasn't it?
She sets herself a task and she follows through. But all those letters as well, that's an insane amount of letters.
Yeah, and there's a bit that didn't quite make the edit where we were talking about how companies will often use pretend handwritten flyers to do a bit of cheating in terms of getting close to you, and so it makes it look like they've written it by hand.
Right.
One of the things that dodgy advertising and marketing people do to try and break those barriers down and get closer to you. But then it occurred to me when Amy was describing a bit of how she structured her letters to enable her to write them and connect with these random people she was contacting. So it's like a cold calling, but it is exactly what you would do if you wrote a structure of how to write an advertising cold calling letter.
Right, yeah.
She kind of happened upon that kind of formula by needing to do it. But obviously it's much nicer than that, because she's not actually selling some timeshare or something.
She's not completely random either. Like there's some kind of link.
But no, as in my advertising head, it kind of just it triggered a thing going, oh yeah, that's a very effective structure of kind of connecting. But it just goes to show how good she is at the old letter writing, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think you definitely need some kind of system, don't you? If you're writing 3 gazillion letters,
yeah.
Otherwise, you might just sort of sit there staring at the wall half the time. Yeah. It's still a lot of hard work.
It is, but obviously for her, it was, I guess, in the end, worth it. It was kind of life-affirming, wasn't it? Or life-changing, even, I guess.
Yeah. And she got a book out of it.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah.
good. And that is why, Tom, all of that is why I have decided to have a go ourselves.
Sorry, so you've decided that we're going to have a go. Is that, yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. As is my want, Tom.
Yeah. I've said it out loud now. We're doing it whether you like it or not. All right, then. But, obviously we're going to do it on a smaller, slightly more manageable scale, though.
Yes.
And we might end up doing some of the aforementioned staring at the wall things while we're trying to think what's right. But
but yes, we have now hopefully completed our letters, sent them off quite some time ago. We wrote 3 of them, didn't we, Tom?
We did. We wrote 1 letter to someone that we admired.
Yeah, 1 to someone we hadn't spoken to for ages.
And 1 to a completely random, unknown, never met before person.
Yeah, a stranger. I think the word you're looking for is stranger there, Tom.
Yes, that would sum it up quickly. So I guess the question is, who did we write to? And the other part of the question is, did they bloody write back?
Yeah. Well, let's not reveal that. Let's say who we wrote to, and then we'll try and guess.
So who did you write to for your person you admired?
Well, that's an interesting one. I just couldn't. I was going to say I couldn't think of anyone, but I could think of so many people.
Right. You couldn't narrow it down.
I struggled for ages to decide who it was going to be, because there are people that I thought, well, I could definitely get a reply off them, like my dad or whatever.
Yeah.
But I thought what I might do is like do a kind of double up and send a letter to somebody who it would be really nice if I could persuade them to come on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
So I tried to do a sort of little bit of killing 2 birds type thing. Yeah, after racking my brains for ages, for some reason I kept coming back to someone that I just kind of get good vibes from. And she also wrote the book that probably changed my life the most. And that person is artist and psychotherapist Philippa Perry.
Right.
I wrote to Philippa Perry.
What sort of things did you say? Because at the minute I'm feeling a bit secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I haven't even read the letter.
I'm not surprised.
Was it a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, just saying that out loud, the book that changed my life the most, did feel a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit weird. I did find myself doing that staring at the wall thing and thinking, why am I doing this? What am I actually saying? What do I want to achieve from it other than just like a reply? Or, yeah, it was a bit odd. What about you, Tom?
For my admired person.
It was me. Was it me?
That must have got lost in the post. So I wrote to an old boss of ours, Jon, Kim, that we used to have as, my first boss, my first proper job. And haven't spoken to her for a long time. But she
fits 2 categories there.
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, she did so much for me. She was brilliant. And I'm not sure she ever really realised, because it's just the way she is. And I think she's someone that maybe, I don't know, doesn't spend too long reminiscing on things like that. And it was just lovely to be able to point out that she made a big difference to me.
How did it feel putting all that stuff down? Did you have a similar kind of feeling to me that it was a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit sick-making, but also at the same time quite nice.
There's something weird about it, because you spend a decent amount of time writing the letter, like crafting the letter, like writing it, properly writing it. Whereas obviously with a text or a message or something, it's just kind of blah, and then it goes and it's short.
Yeah.
But with the letter, there's kind of that emphasis on structuring it and kind of second guessing what's going to be coming back at you to kind of answer that or move it on. So you're kind of writing in these little sections as well of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you get it's very easy to get quite personal, emotional, and self-revealing, and kind of, being very open through just through the medium of it. And then that hits you like a truck when you put it in the letterbox and you can no longer get that letter back.
You can't retrieve it. Yeah,
when it's kind of gone.
Oh, she knows that now.
There's that weird bit where it's like, well, that's travelling towards her now. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah. I might have to hang around outside her house and stop the postman.
Accost the postman and get it back over. So yeah, no, that was my admired. And you know what? I really enjoyed writing it. And when it suddenly occurred to me that that's who I should write to, and it was quite a nice feeling, really. I just felt, oh yes, there's a real reason for this. Actually, that is something I should be doing. That's brilliant.
It's like a long thank you card, that one, in some ways.
Yes, yeah, very much so, very much so.
That's nice, Tom. That's a really good one. Yeah, Kim was on my list as well. Interestingly. So obviously, she wrote back, and she wrote a letter. I'm going to say, that's my guess.
Well, one Tuesday morning, I got a phone call from her, which said, just got your letter. It came at a really good time. She's having a bit of a day, and it meant a lot to her. And, well, actually, her first words were, "Are you dying?" She wondered if that was right. I'd written it.
Well,
so,
yeah.
But that goes, which did make me think, that's interesting, isn't it? That someone thinks, oh, you've written a letter? God, there must be there's something it's so out of the ordinary that there must be something untoward. Or
did you fessed up about the you were writing it for the podcast as well?
Yeah. It was all in there. It was all in there. But yeah. So no, she didn't bother writing back though. She ain't got round to writing back. But again, this is the thing with letters, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not, because you can't just you don't get the letter and then sit down and write the letter and post it on your way out, do you? That's not how it works.
No,
it needs time. It needs a gap. It's It almost goes back to that, we were saying about Jane Austen and whatever. You've kind of, there's no TV, there's nothing else to do. You're sat in a dimly lit room. Let's pen a letter.
And you can hope for a reply for a long time and maybe never get one. And this is one of the things that Amy was saying, wasn't it? That you can't expect anything back. Even more so now, probably.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because people probably don't even have a lot of paper hanging around.
No, I mean, with the best of intentions, it will fall by the wayside, won't it?
Yeah. No, people don't have time.
Did Philippa write back to you?
What's your guess?
I want it to be a yes. I really want it to be a yes. But I think you probably scared her off. You probably got a letter from a solicitor's, did you, maybe?
No, but you're right, I didn't get... I'm still... Let's put it this way, Tom, still waiting.
You haven't yet. You haven't yet. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure she just really... She wants to get the wording right, I think.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going on to the person.
Yeah. That's a double fail, although I get half points because Kim phoned me up immediately.
Yeah. No, I think you're allowed that one. You're allowed that one. So what's next?
Someone we haven't spoken to for ages.
So mine's a bit similar to your Kim one. Mine is...
Do not say you wrote to Kim and she's replied to you, otherwise that's it. Episode ends here.
No, I wrote to Taff Girdleston.
Oh, yeah.
Fellow voiceover artist.
Yeah. Who
back during our days working in radio, Tom and I, we used to hire him a lot, didn't we? He's very... He's a versatile guy and, all-round nice guy.
He was great, wasn't he, when you were first starting out in the voiceover thing?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he probably voiced most of our ads.
Yeah.
But he could kind of do everything. He was like super versatile, and still is, sorry. But I haven't spoken to him for about 20 years, and for reasons that will become clear, I thought it's high time I got in touch. And the reason I say that is because one chat in particular stands out. And that is a chat that we had on the phone in like 2001.
Yeah.
And that phone call was life transforming because after having just a sort of a little chat about him doing something, he said, "Oh, by the way, I heard you on the radio," because I'd been doing a bit of free voicing for the radio group. And he said, "Oh, I heard you. You're really good. Have you not thought of doing it like full time?" And me being me, I said, no, not at all. Hadn't even crossed my mind, if I'm being honest. But after that conversation, at the end of that year, I had enough money to kind of set up and do my own thing. And it was entirely that. It was entirely Taff, just being a good guy and saying it, because he didn't have to say anything.
Yeah, but I remember he wasn't doing it because he was a good guy, though. He said that he would buy all your equipment and you would just have to give him like 15% of your earnings for the next 10 years. Didn't he? He did say that when he was trying to get through to you that you could actually do it. It was like, right, seriously, I will. If I have confidence, I will buy everything.
I think you're right. Do you know? I totally forgotten that little bit.
He did.
I had totally forgotten that bit.
Brilliant. So what did he say when he wrote back?
He wrote me a lovely letter, which wasn't a letter. It was an email.
Right.
He said, Please excuse the electronic typed reply. Like a lot of people, I suppose, I just don't use the manual handwriting muscles now. By about the third Christmas card these days, it looks like I've made a drunk child attempt my signature.
Well, it's a response, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was a lovely long response, and he went into a lot of detail, and he explained why he mentioned it, and it's because he actually had a very similar kind of career arc where he was a writer and then went on to voice things.
Well, that's lovely.
But yeah, so he kind of told me the story of his career and was very nice and said, you deserve it, and it made him feel nice. So that was good. It felt good to get that out there because I've been thinking about writing to him or thanking him for that for so long. Yeah. It was brilliant to have the excuse to do it. So Tom, who haven't you spoken to for a long time?
Well, I wrote a letter to a friend that I went to uni with who now lives in Germany. Right. Just one of those people that's just a friend, as in, you can not see them for years and years and years and then just slot straight back in.
Yeah, nice.
So I just wrote him a letter, and there was no kind of reason to write the letter. So it was just, it was very much kind of that sort of updating on what's happening in the family kind of thing and what's going on. And my son was just about to go over to Germany on a school trip and just kind of things, and just that nice thing. And it was quite exciting going to the post office and posting something abroad as well.
Did you use one of those little airmail?
It got a little airmail tag on it. Yeah, I didn't have an proper airmail envelope.
That's what I mean, the one that sort of folds in on itself.
Because maybe if I'd have done that, it would have actually bloody arrived.
Are you joking?
So, as yet,
it never arrived.
Over a month later,
you're kidding.
It hasn't arrived. So I sent him an awkward text the other day saying, slightly random question, but did you receive a letter, or could you just not be asked replying? Like, where we are? So, but that's the thing with a letter, right? Like you say, it goes out into the ether, and
that's rubbish.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It might be, maybe it'd be one of those like in 20 years gets delivered or something. So that was a bit of a disappointment. Wow. That was a bit of a letdown, really.
Maybe we'll have more luck.
This seems like the one we would least chance of having luck with. And it is a wonderful idea, isn't it? Just picking someone.
I think so. It's a bit like the pen pal thing, but obviously the other person hasn't agreed to it.
There's probably words for that, but yeah.
How did you do this, by the way? Because I had a technique, I had a strategy for this. What was yours?
Let me tell you about mine. So I was kind of sat there thinking, right, who the hell what do we do? Do we just spin the globe around and put your finger on it and see what's what? And I thought, well, do you know what? Let's try and go big or go home. I'm going to the other side of the world.
Good on you.
And I thought, there's a Newcastle in Australia.
Nice.
That's like almost the antipode.
Yeah.
We'll go over there.
Link there.
So I went onto Google Maps, zoomed down to Newcastle, Australia, had a look round, and it's amazing. There's all these towns that had some sort of meaning, and from all over, because obviously there was loads of people from all over England that went there. And there was a place called Wakefield, which is there's a Wakefield near where I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was zooming into that, thinking, that's interesting. And then there was a school just off Wakefield Road, which is my first school was just off Wakefield Road. And I thought, well, this is it. This is the connection. So I wrote a letter to the headmistress of the school.
That's good.
And I explained the situation and and explained why it was a connection even on the other side of the world, and the names and the things and stuff.
Nice.
And I even suggested that maybe the kids would like to write a letter back as an English lesson or something, or if it's too much trouble to post them, just take a picture of them and email them through.
You thought it through.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's good.
I've no idea whether it arrived or not because I've not heard anything.
We don't trust the Royal Mail anymore.
Nothing back.
Nothing. Not a
I
single.
even followed it up with an email last week, and they haven't even answered my email as yet. And I don't know, in this day and age, do people just get letters like that and think, "Oh, is this the new Nigerian prince thing? Is this what it is now?
Well,
is this what we're doing?"
Someone's fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next letter's going to be, please send me. $4,000.
Send me pictures of all your children. Yeah. Hold on a minute. It's just for a podcast. Sounds a bit weird. So I don't know if people are naturally suspicious or
I think that might be true, yeah, because how often are you going to get a letter out of the blue? What are the chances?
How did you pick your random person?
I did exactly what you just said. I literally spun Google Maps. Cause if you zoom out.
So I've written to a dolphin in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Well, you'd be amazed how many times you pick the ocean.
There is a lot of water. It's like
a load of water. But weirdly, so I did this twice, right?
Yeah.
The first time.
Your house.
I got my own house. I spun the world and it stopped on Siberia. And I thought, that's actually quite interesting. I'm going to go for that. That's pretty exciting. Obviously, there are some slight problems. Being part of Russia.
Yeah, that's one.
I thought, no, I'm going to go for it. There's nothing wrong with me doing this. I'm going to just, what's the likelihood of the person, being, I don't know, they're just living their life, aren't they? They're just getting on with whatever they do.
Yeah.
So I zoomed in on this town. Anyway, it's turned out to be quite a big city that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And I wrote to that person. And then shortly after, I thought, I'm never going to hear from them. I should do this again. And I was right. I didn't hear from them. So I'm glad I did it again. And instead, I spun the globe again, and I got a little town in Chile.
Ooh.
So first of all, I was in the sea, but I was right next to the coastline, and I just kind of spun the map a bit more, and I went in.
Swam for sure, yeah.
Went in a little bit, and then just kind of kept zooming in to the point where I could see a road, and then I used Google Street View to have a look and see if I could see the number of a house. And that is literally how I did it.
Wow.
Saw a number of a house and just thought, okay, I've got the road, got the number.
So you didn't even write to a person, you wrote to just an
Didn't
address.
know who lived there.
The occupier.
Exactly. The occupant of this particular...
I mean, that doesn't sound dodgy at all, does it, if you're getting that?
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah, so it was, random stranger on Calle Principal, Villa Santa Lucia, Los Lagos, Chile.
It'd be hilarious now, by the way, John, if all our listeners wrote them a letter in the next few weeks. They just get
wouldn't that be wonderful?
Mailbag.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put their details in the show notes.
Really freak them out, wouldn't it?
But there's a lovely little house on the sort of decking at the front of it. There's all these lovely flowers. And there are two people whose faces obviously have been blurred out, and a dog who's obviously quite interested in the stranger driving through the the town as well in the Google car. But I thought, they look nice. I'll try them. And so this was the hardest to write because it was like, okay, hello.
What on earth do you write about?
Exactly.
I like your dog.
It's like, that was exactly what I said. And let me tell you about me. It was just a bit weird. Anyway, so I'm thinking...
And it must have been even harder for you not writing in your native tongue as well, because I assume you wrote it
I wrote it in Spanish, obviously, yeah. No, I did send a full translation in Spanish, but I wrote it... I did it in my own handwriting properly. But here's the weird thing. So I'm writing this letter. I'm in the middle of the letter, and I thought, I need some more information about this town. So then I could sort of maybe talk about something. So I just Googled the town and thought maybe there'll be some sort of local information or something. And the first thing to pop up was a Wikipedia article titled 2017 Villa Santa Lucia Mud Flow, a Natural Disaster in Chaitan Commune, southern Chile. And then, of course, I had a proper look at the satellite image, and you can clearly tell there's this big kind of triangle of devastation in the north of the town. So I thought, I've got to address that now, haven't I? I can't just not mention that. So then it sort of turned into a kind of, look, I have literally just looked this up halfway through the letter, and kind of just stopped me in my tracks. And ended up being quite a strange letter. Yeah. It was almost like a sort of apology, a kind of a letter of sympathy. But that's gone off, and I still have no reply. So that's another one. But you never know. How long will it take to get to Chile? I have no idea.
I don't know. It's the same with mine for Australia, I guess. But, I mean, the email obviously got there immediately, and they haven't replied to that. But so, I mean, it has to be said, that's not a massively high strike rate, is it?
It's not, but it's sort of understandable as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially writing to strangers. I think I sort of imagined that someone would get back because it's just intriguing. Why wouldn't you? But people are busy, aren't they? Cracking on with their lives.
Yeah.
I would definitely do it, but then I'm interested in writing. I'm interested in... just sort of generally interested in the world.
We've just literally done an entire podcast about letter writing as well. So there probably is, I mean...
It'd be
if we
really
can take
weird.
A random sample of people, we're off to one side of people that would. Yeah. No, but people are busy, and even that's the thing. Even if you go, oh my God, that's amazing, I will reply to that.
Yeah,
it's not,
exactly.
And then you go, oh, that was months. Oh,
Best laid plans. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I have to say, there was something really nice about just sending it out into the ether. And it is different to an email, isn't it? It's very, very different.
Massively so. Just even the physical act of posting it feels like like I said, that thing, it's like the point of no return. It's done. You can't change it.
And my hand actually did hurt after writing 3 letters.
That was, I wrote a letter to Amy Daughters, to say thank you for the interview.
Oh, yeah.
And I did actually apologise for my handwriting. It's like, I don't really do this very much anymore.
Mine started out beautifully. All my letters, first half a page, absolutely beautiful. By the end, properly just scrawling.
Yeah.
Well, that was nice.
It was. And do you know what? It's nice doing a task that we can fail at, inverted commas, but you still get a lot from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Getting the letter back isn't actually the thing, is it? Unlike that book that I had in the 1980s of writing off the free stuff. Yeah. Getting the sticker back.
That literally was the point, yeah.
Getting your poster about marmosets back. That was a big deal. But for this, it was it's very cathartic, isn't it? And it was like the letter I wrote to Kim. It was just not, I didn't need it to respond to some extent.
Yeah.
I just needed to know that it had gone and that's been communicated.
Yeah.
And as well, we would never have that conversation face to face.
No, absolutely not.
Neither of us are into that.
Yeah.
Let's have a deep, meaning, emotional conversation. No, let's not.
That's what letters are for.
Let's put it in a letter and pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. That'll be squirreled away somewhere.
Do you know what would be nice at this point, John, is if we had some kind of well-known writer or something who had a book out that was about letters. That'd be a good link.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, it'd be a nice little sort of bonus feature, wouldn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me get the Guest-O-Matic 3000 out again, and we'll see what. Well, it did all right last time, didn't it?
To be fair, it did. What have we got?
So let's put the details in, and let's see. I think Bertie's still a little bit tired, but come on, Bertie,
Bert.
give it some.
There you go. There you go.
So, please welcome onto the Failing Writers podcast, Poppy Ropper.
Hey?
Oh, say again, Bertie. Right, okay. Please welcome on the Failing Writers podcast, Robert Popper.
Hello. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Very good, thanks.
You've arrived in the middle of our letter writing episode, and that couldn't be more fitting because your latest book is very much about letter writing, isn't it? I mean, it virtually is just letters.
I mean, it is just letters, yeah. The Elsie Drake Letters, aged 104, by me pretending to be a very old lady called Mrs Elsie Drake, who's 104 and the 6th oldest woman in Britain. Yeah. That is the book. Yeah. Goodbye.
Thanks very much.
It's basically me. I mean, it's a wonderful present. It's me writing real letters as this very elderly, slightly strange lady, and sending to real, companies and people, from like the Prime Minister to Greg's, and getting their replies. She's never used a computer before, so it's sort of chaos on the page. And but it's kind of different from my old ones I did, the Time Waster letters. It's slightly more of a, not like a sitcom in it, but there's lots of characters you get to know.
Yes, her friends and
so there's a horrible lady she lives with called Mrs Hale, but they despise each other and they're both really nasty to each other.
I think I loved in the response letters how some of them are kind of quite defensive of Mrs Hale. Oh well, trying to calm the waters. And just how involved people get in the writing back is quite sweet.
Yeah, I hope you, Mrs Hale, are still having fun. And then she'd write, we're not having fun. She put ink in my bed. Or cough on Mrs Hale's bread when she's out of the room. It's things like that.
Did you ever feel guilty about any of these letters when people obviously fell for them and kind of?
I mean, generally, I didn't include them. I mean, there was some.
Oh, right, okay.
I wrote to some model villages, and I said, I'm very old, and I went there years and years ago. And you probably don't remember me, but I loved your village so much. And they wrote back, sadly, we don't remember you, but you sound wonderful. And then I made out of because there's a lot of things I make. I'm terrible at making things. I make these terrible models out of coloured clay of her and her pet hedgehog, Potsy. And I sent them to the model village and said, it would be an honour if you could put pictures of me and Potsy all over, in different rooms, in the butcher's, the police station, the church, and send me pictures of them. And it would make me so happy, and a wonderful memory of coming to your model village. And then I got an A4 hardback envelope, and there was loads of photos where they put all round all over their thing, and I thought, that is gold, I'm using that. And then I read it again and I thought, no, that's horrible. They're so kindly and nice.
It's too much.
And then they kept writing to me and they'd say, we've got our firework display coming up. And normally I just sent them like money, but like towards charity and stuff. And
to assuage your guilt.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But, they were really sweet. But there's a few like that I couldn't put in the book.
Can I ask you about the artwork that Elsie occasionally sends with her letters? Is that your level of skill of art, or have you had to try and be bad at art to do that? I don't know how to sensitively ask that question.
No, it's fine. No, I just draw what makes me laugh. So, yeah.
So that's just how you draw, and it just happens to look like an elderly woman's drawing.
Well, no, I am trying to make it look more elderly, yeah. I mean, when I would like sign her name, I would shake the table so it makes it all trembly. And so, yeah, I'm sort of self-sabotaging.
I think my favourite picture is the one that you sent to the Pope of of the Pope flying around burning holes in vehicles with his eyes.
So I wrote to the Pope. When I wrote letters, I always put a £5 note in every one. I wrote hundreds, about nearly 700, I think, 650, something like that. And not everyone writes back at all. And the Pope, I think, I got a reply, but that was the third attempt. So the Pope owes me he owes me a tenner, basically.
Yeah, I noticed he kept your money. But you're saying he did that twice?
Oh yeah, he's taken 2 fivers. Yeah,
never sent them back. Most people send them back, don't they?
Some send them back. Yeah, I think about 50% sent them back.
But yeah, Pope kept it.
Pope kept it. And also, I wrote a lot to ambassadors, which I didn't use in the book. I had a good one actually. A reply from the Dutch ambassador. I just said it was like, "Thank you so much for a wonderful dinner we had last night. It was I'll never forget it. Food was quite dry though, etc., etc." And I can't believe I was sitting opposite an ambassador of Holland. I don't know what they thought. And I wrote back and said they just sent me their book.
Oh.
I wrote to a lot of ambassadors to do the same sort of letter, and pretty sure she was the only one that wrote back. And I wrote to about 8. And they all the ambassadors kept, they just kept the money.
I suppose they've got Ferrero Rocher doesn't buy itself, does it?
I suppose you're right.
Do you know what I mean?
Is there a trick, Robert, to getting a response?
Mm.
Do you get good at the line that you can't cross? We're obviously not very good at it, Tom and I, because we didn't get a lot of responses.
I don't know it. No, because most don't write back. I did used to know that ratio, if it's like 1 in 3 write back. Sometimes, you write them and I'll show them to my wife and she'll say, "That's too mad." But then I think, "Oh, it's so funny," and I'll send it. And they do write back.
Yeah.
And so often people say, the first one's got to be like lure them in. Yeah, I do. I try and do a balance of trying to lure them in. But then sometimes I go, "I just want to write something insane." But yeah. Number one, people don't write back to letters as much as they used to. When I did time waster letters 20 years ago, people weren't writing many letters then, but they were kind of used to writing letters a bit more, so they'd probably write back a bit more. So I did think when I came up with this idea years ago of this old lady, I thought that's kind of my in. She's 104. There's a guilt factor, and also my God, I've had a letter from a 104-year-old. I'm going to write that, which is why lots of them, the companies, etc., I wrote to turn up at the house. They just wanted to meet Elsie, right. Probably for PR reasons, because they think this is going to be great in the paper. We found our long-serving customer. So yeah, I got lots and lots of visits.
Wow. What's your most interesting visit?
Was it the Pope?
He flew down, actually. He burnt a hole in my sky dish. It's unbelievable.
That is so typical.
I wish I caught it on camera. I'm asking if the neighbours have got, their Ring cameras, but they're so low.
Yeah.
It is typical. No, I wrote to Theresa May asking to be her maid in waiting, I'd clean her toilets and scullery.
Yeah.
Sent money, and they said, "No, we don't need one." I sent money, and then I said, "Oh, here, I'm sending you more money, £10 as a bribe." And then I was at a meeting, my wife phoned and said, the police have just come, and they've been sent by 10 Downing Street, saying that Theresa May's office is very concerned about a very old lady who's been sending money asking to work as a lady in waiting. But first of all, they said, is there someone here called Elsie Drake? And my wife said, "Sort of." And then they explained it all, and they kind of saw the funny side in the end. But I like to think that was for them, their probably most exciting thing. You've got the local police, 10 Downing Street need you to. They would have thought, wow, this is a biggie.
Oh, yeah.
And then the best one, or most scary one, was when social services turned up, from Haringey Social Services at the door, saying, "I need to come and make an assessment of this property." And we just thought it was about the kids. And then I had to explain who I was, and she didn't believe me. She ID'd me in my own home. And then my wife said, "Do you want to come in?" I said, "Yes, because I need to check that you're not hiding a 104-year-old lady in your house." I was so happy. And then I walked around and she looked in all the rooms. I had to open all the cupboards. And then you. I'm convinced there is no 104-year-old lady in your house. That was the best one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm only surprised that you didn't employ an elderly actress to hang around your house.
Well, early on, years ago, I've forgotten about this one. I wrote to, God, I don't know where that letter is, some newspaper, and they wrote back, it's wonderful. And I wrote back and said, we'd love to like come and interview you, do a feature on you. I was like, fuck. So then I ended up, I forgot this, phoning around like agencies, explaining what I'm doing. And then I spoke to an agent there and he said, well, to be honest, my mum would be up for it. She's 90 and what would you need to do? Well, I need to tell her to pretend to be, yeah, she'd be loved. And I just thought, that's just too much. I didn't follow up on that in the end.
That could end very awkwardly, couldn't it? Yeah. Robert, would you be happy to read us one of your favourite letters?
Yeah. Is Elsie there now?
I can get Elsie. Yeah. Okay. So this is to like badminton horse trials, so like the big show jumping thing. I'll just get Elsie. You ready, Elsie?
Yes.
Here we go.
Dear manager of the horse trials, I love horses and I'm 104. My name is Elsie Drake and I'm the 6th oldest woman in Britain. Please excuse my errors, but the machine is so cold, I think my hands have got frostbite again. I'm writing to you because I'm very upset about the badminton horse trials. What I want to know is, why are you putting horses on trial? What have they ever done wrong? They are innocent beasts. So why are you putting them before a court of law? It is not fair. They've committed no crimes. Horses can't commit crimes unless perhaps one of them murdered some men. Did one of them murder some men? I enclose £5 costs. Yours truly, Elsie Drake.
Dear Mrs Drake, thank you very much for taking the time to write to me to express your concern about the welfare of the horses that compete at badminton. I fear the title of the event has misled you, as in no way are the horses put on trial. They and their riders compete against each other in a very regulated competition, and the welfare of the horses is paramount, with rules being strictly adhered to. The horses are inspected by vets throughout their stay at badminton and are cared for to the highest level. All those involved with badminton admire and love horses greatly. The term horse trials is a universal title which has been in place for many years. Thank you for being so thoughtful in providing a stamped addressed envelope and £5. I return both, as I'm only too happy to reply to you as I respect your concern. With very best wishes, yours sincerely, Jane Tuckwell.
Dear Mrs Tuckwell, thank you very much for your lovely letter about horses on trial. It is me, Elsie, here, who is 104. You are kind. Am I kind? Thank you for explaining that none of your horses are put on trial and that it's just a mistake in the name. You have put my sweet mind at rest. However, I have one more little question which I would be most grateful if you could answer. My question is, what would happen if one of your naughty horses suddenly kicked a lady? Surely this horse would be put on trial for its appalling crime. Just think of the poor woman. She was just minding her business. But where would you hold the trial? I think it would have to be in a grand sort of stable with a human judge on the throne and maybe a mixture of humans and animals as the jury. But then how will the animals understand the proceedings? I do hope you can help me and answer this complex matter. I am sending you £5 assistance money and bless you for all your gentle kindness. Yours truly, Elsie Drake.
Dear Elsie, thank you for your further letter, and I'm so happy that I can put your mind at rest with regards to the word trial. All horses at badminton are well schooled and on the whole behave in a way that ensures people do not get injured. Of course, freak accidents happen, but if they do, it would be treated as so, and the horse would not be punished. It is kind of you to send money, but I return this herewith, as it would be best given to an animal charity. I hope with this second reply that I have settled your mind, and I am sorry, but the correspondence between us must end here, as there is much to do to ensure the event remains a safe environment for both horses and people. With all best wishes for a happy Christmas and New Year. Yours sincerely, Jane Tuckwell.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thanks, Elsie.
Robert, is there going to be an audiobook?
There is an audio, but yeah.
Have you done the audio?
Yeah, I did it in that voice, and it was after 3 hours. It was agony.
I said that's quite a task.
I don't think I can do more. God, just try and do half an hour, get more. I don't think I can do any more.
I think one of my favourites, Robert, is the Walker's Crisps. It's Elsie's idea for the Walker's Crisps advert.
Oh yeah, there's an advert. She comes up with an advert. Where is it? Oh yeah, okay, I'll read the advert. Yeah, it's for she's got an advert for the crisps.
The advert could go like this idea I had. A lady and a man are in their bathroom, which is covered in mud and filth. The man says, "Why is this room so dirty, Helen?" Helen is his wife for 15 years. They met in Blackpool when John, who is the man, was working for a company that made butter. Helen said, "Because we have not cleaned it for 15 years, ever since we first met." John says, "But why didn't we clean it then when we were first in love, my darling?" Then they eat some Walker's Crisps for a long time, and suddenly the bathroom is spotless. No filth can be seen anywhere, not even in the toilet. In the packet of crisps talks to us, but is really a man just dressed up as the crisps. The crisps man says, "Trust Walker's Crisps, or you will regret it." But the man is actually Helen's father. Helen says, "Thank you, father," but her father says nothing, as this would mean the people watching will know he's not really the crisps. Do you like my idea? Will you make this advert? If you do, all I would ask is some more bags of your beautiful crisps. Please, will you let me know, as I'm 104.
They sent me like boxes of crisps. that sort of writing, though, those sort of like when I worked at Channel 4 years ago, we would get like insane scripts and just people that have no idea how to write at all, and they would change tenses and then suddenly talk like as if they're literally talking to you in it. And I love that thing. I love that where you don't know what you're reading. That was a big like.
This happens in the world of advertising, though, doesn't it, John? That entire bit would just be preceded by someone saying to you, "The clients had an idea."
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen a few of those.
That's very good. Yeah.
So how long is the advert? You want to make it 5 minutes?
I can't remember.
How long is it? It sounds like you've been writing this book for years.
Well, I came up with when I finished the Time Waster Letters, and then I did a follow-up one, and then I did like a novel like of the character Robin Cooper, like a year in his life. And then I like really missed doing them. I couldn't write any more letters because people knew who I was. And then I just had an idea around literally 2007. I wrote my first letter to Tony Blair. That was my first one. And I got a signed letter like that she wants to kiss him on the veranda. And then I got my first letter signed, a picture from Tony Blair, like signed. I have it here, actually. It's pretty good. When you look really young and fresh. Look at that. Pretty good. Nice. And then every few years I come back like as a hobby, and I just thought there's something in this. And then it was only like 2018, I spent like a month doing it, and I got some good things. And then in 2023, like I thought, I'm going to do a whole year on this, and I'm going to write hundreds and hundreds of letters. That's the only way to do it. And I just sort of went a bit mad in my like home office. And then I was in the post office the whole time, getting my £5 notes out, and they're like, "Who are you getting £5 notes out all the time?"
You must have spent a fortune, because the price of stamps, apart from anything.
Yeah, I spent a fortune. Yeah, I did. Yeah,
with your fivers and everything. Yeah.
There's a one letter I think where she just puts £35. Is this too? Why am I putting so much money in? And like, thank God they wrote back with that. But
you have fraudulently been claiming Elsie Drake's pension for the past 15 years, haven't you?
So I actually have power of attorney.
So you've just been draining a bank account.
Yeah, that was top.
Over and above Elsie Letters and Time Waster Letters, Robert, are you actually a letter writer? Do you ever?
No, I don't. I'm not like an old-fashioned person. Obviously, I still use a fax like we all do.
Send off my Just Eat order on the fax. There we go.
Yeah, and Uber. Yeah, no, I don't really write, disappointingly. Well, you know what I do, actually? Whenever I make a TV show, it sounds like a humble brag, but I'm going to say it because it is mad. I send a card to every member of the crew and cast. Say thank you.
Well, there you go.
That's like, last time that was 100 people. And Damon, who directed it, was like, "Why don't you just email them?" I go, "No, I want to send them cards." And halfway through, I'm like, "Why am I writing cards?" That's like, yeah, that I guess that is old-fashioned, that bit.
But the most important thing is that Elsie Drake's book is out in time for Christmas.
I think you like have one by your bed, one like under your bed for your bed to read when the bed wants to read it, and then just lots of gifts. It's a silly book. Yeah,
it is. It's a cracking little gift.
Thank you.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, thank you for coming on talking to us, Robert, and thank you, Elsie, as well, for reading out.
It's nice to see you guys again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
So go and buy that book. It's full of letters, and we all know now that we all love letters and letter writing and getting. He got a lot of letters back, which is a bit frustrating.
Yeah, that is annoying, isn't it? How did he do that? I mean,
he did bribe them. He did put a £5 note in all of them. Maybe we should have done the same.
Yeah, we should have bribed
Maybe that's where we went wrong.
I think it helps as well, doesn't it? The age thing. Yeah, it's just nice.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend I'm 104 next time.
Let's do that next time.
Yeah.
Let's do that. One more thing before we go, people. The Failing Writers fiction, flash fiction, festive flash, fast.
Do you want me to do it, Tom?
No, it's fine. What's wrong with that? I think everyone knows what I'm saying.
I think they do, yeah.
The festive flash fiction competition is
That's
finished.
the one.
Everyone's going, well, yeah, why are you saying that again, Tom? You've already said that. Why would you say it again? Don't need to hear it twice. It's now finished, so pens down, no more writing. That's it. We'll be having a look at them, and Emily will be having a good go through them and judging whether yours is worthy of a £500 prize. So you must join us next time to see who has won. It could be you. And hear some of the great stories, because there's been some absolute Bobby Dazzlers.
There has. Yeah, there's some absolute beauties in there. So, yeah, join us next time.
Yeah.
And we should also mention all the details of Amy's book, Dear Dana, is down there in the show notes. And obviously Robert's as well.
Oh, we should fulfill our contractual obligements. We should fulfill our contractual? This is a tricky sentence, isn't it? We should fulfill our contractual obligations, because Scrivener were kind enough to sponsor the Flash Fish.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still get 20% off Scrivener with the code Failing. You may win it as one of the runners-up. We don't know. This is exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting.
But one thing we should do before we leave is leave them with an ad for Scrivener, because they've been used.
Here it is.
What are we doing?
Well, this is meant to be an ad for Scrivener.
What do you mean, meant to be an ad?
But I've run out of ideas.
Oh.
So this is pretty awkward.
Yeah.
Well, we should say something about Scrivener, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Let's.
Yeah, could do. It's really good at helping you plan and write stuff.
Yeah. And it's got an amazing amount of functionality.
Oh, yeah. If there's something you want to do with your manuscript, it can probably do it, from organising, attaching research outlines, to formatting it into a beautiful book. It can do it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That was kind of like an advert, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I reckon if we do like a little jingle at the end, we'll get away with it, won't we?
Scrivener, we'll be giving you just a ton of different reasons to download it. What a feeling, and a big one is there's no subscription. When you buy it, then it's bought. You don't keep paying for it, which is nice. You heard of Nick Wallace, but you know him by his handle. The author of the great post office scandal. Said I wrote my first 2 books on Scrivener, and I'm just about to embark on my third. I found Scrivener invaluable at every stage, editing and fact-checking on every single page. I feel like a real writer now, because Scrivener's given me writing power. So now I'm gonna hit the shower, because I've worked so hard on my book.
Please let me know how I would really genuinely like to see how your your letter writing project turns out.
Yeah, we'll drop you a letter.
That's great. I'll write you back.
Yeah, I bet you bloody will.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello? Where's everybody gone?